let me show you how to quickly change one unit of measurement to another. I'm going to be showing you this with metric units, not with imperial units. The difference between them, let me show you. So imperial units, these are the things that Americans use in their everyday lives. Gallons, oops, gallons, or ounces, fluid ounces. Or what else could we have here? Cups, pints. Okay, so all of these are units of volume, which is basically the amount of liquid that's in an area. Now, there's another measurement system called the metric system, also called the SI system of measurement, or Standard International. And it is an international system. It's not used in one nation. It's used in nations all around the world. And the science community uses it so that scientists can easily communicate with each other from one country to another. The metric units for volume, or the amount of liquid, are called liters, or you might also hear milliliters. Okay, and now there's more. Besides volume, there's also measurements for distance and length, and weight and mass. Weight and mass. And there's more. There's a lot more. There's temperature and lots of other things that need to be measured. But we use the imperial units in our everyday lives here in America, metric units in science class. Length, you might know some of the imperial units for length, like feet and inches, yards, miles. So those are units of length in the imperial measurement system. Weight and mass, ounces, again, for some reason, ounces are used for both volume, ounces up here, and also in weight and mass. It's really confusing, I think. But ounces are one, pounds are another. Okay, and over here on the metric side, here I'll give you some of these. You know some of these from science class. Length, common unit is meters, but also you'll hear things like centimeters and millimeters, or even kilometers, especially if you're a runner. You know about kilometers, I'm sure. Weight and mass, in the metric system we use grams. Whoops, what did I do? Close that. Yikes. Get back into my presentation. So we use grams, is what I was saying, or kilograms are common units in the metric system for measurement. Now, all of these things, we have to be able to convert from one to another. Now, imperial conversions, they go like this. 1 yard is equal to 3 feet. I think every football player knows that. 1 foot is equal to 12 inches. Easy peasy, right? And then how about this one? 1 mile. You know how many feet are in a mile? Not many people know this, but maybe you can remember it. It's 5,280 feet in 1 mile. Okay, you could probably handle that. If I made you memorize it, you could memorize it. The metric system, it turns out the conversions are a lot easier. Here, look at it. 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeters. You could probably remember that. How about this? 1 centimeter equals 10 millimeters. You could probably remember that too. Or how about this one? 1 kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters. Now, I want you to notice something about the two systems. On the imperial side, over here, we have strange numbers. 1 and 3. We have 12, 5,280. Over here on the metric side, this side. Ooh, metric. I love the metric system. The metric side, these are all powers of 10. 100, 10, 1,000, they're all powers of 10. What that does for the conversions is it makes it a little bit easier. Now, most of you, since you're in 7th grade, you can handle things like this. How many feet are in 2 yards? So if I asked you to convert 2 yards into feet, you would just look up here and say, oh, 1 yard is 3 feet, so 2 yards would be 2 times 3, so that would be 6 feet. Easy enough. Or if I told you to figure out how many feet were in 5 miles, you'd say, all right, I have to do some math. And here's what the math would look like. You'd take 5,280 feet, and you'd multiply it by, that's how many feet are in a mile, you'd multiply it by 5 miles. So you'd do the math, you'd end up with, let's see, we've got a 0 here, let's see, another 0, carry the 4, 8 times 5 is 40, 2 times 5 is 10, but add that 4, 14, 5 times 5, wow, there it is, 26,400 feet in 5 miles. So you can do this, but there's a lot of math involved for some of these imperial conversions. Let's take a look on the metric side. On the metric side, say I want to know how many centimeters are in 2 meters. 2 meters equals how many centimeters? 2 times 100, oh, I can do that, 200 centimeters. Okay, that's easy enough. What about, let's do another one like this. 5 miles is how many feet? Let's see how many meters are in 5 kilometers. Let's see. Boy, 1 is 1,000, so 5 would be 5,000. Now, there's a big difference here. Metric units are a lot easier to convert. We've got prefixes and base units when we're dealing with metric units. Let me explain this just a little bit more. If I write the word kilogram, there is a prefix, that's the kilo, and then there is the base unit, the gram. I'll write out a list of the popular prefixes, the ones that are commonly used. Commonly used is kilo, commonly, not so commonly here, but in some places in Europe they'll use hecta, or deca, deci, centi, or milli. All of these are prefixes that can be attached to a base unit. So the base units, we use 3 common ones in science class. We use a base unit of meter, gram, or liter. Now, over here in this list, kilo, hecta, deca, deci, centi, milli, I left this blank space right in here. And I left it here on purpose because all of these prefixes are all just powers of 10 away from the base unit. And this space right here represents where a base unit fits. All of these fit right in this spot. So let me explain what I mean. If I write a base unit here, it could be any base unit at all. A deca of that base unit is just 10 times larger. A hecta is 100 times larger. And a kilo is 1,000 times larger. So if I had 1 liter, a decaliter is 10 times larger. A hectoliter is 100 times larger. And a kiloliter is 1,000 times larger. Let's go the other way. If I go down this list, everything is divided by 10. Or a centi is divided 100 times. Or a milli is divided into 1,000. So what I'm getting at here is that all of the metric units are just powers of 10. Okay, so what does this all mean? It means whenever we convert from one metric unit to another metric unit, we'll always multiply and divide by 10. And that's something that I know you can do. Here, let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to get rid of this over here. Need a little workspace here. Let's say I want you to do this. 5 times 10. Easy, right? It's just 50. But what you're doing when you're multiplying by 10, whether you realize it or not, is you're taking this 5, which has a hidden decimal place right here, and you're actually moving the decimal over one place. That's it. So when you move it over here, you're left with this gap, and you can just fill it in with a 0. So the answer is 50. You do the same thing if you multiply by 1,000. 5 times 1,000. Or maybe you've learned a zero trick where you just add as many zeros as you have. So if you're multiplying by 1,000, you add 3 zeros to 5. Maybe you've heard it that way. But what you're doing is you're just moving a hidden decimal place over 1, 2, 3 places and filling in those places with zeros. So that's 5,000. You can do it the same way with 5 divided by 10. Now, division is harder for some people. So if I have 5, the decimal is right here, right to the right of the number 5. And if I divide by 10, instead of moving my decimal place to the right, I'm going to move it to the left. So I'll hop over here. Just like that. Now you can check this on a calculator if you want, because some people don't believe that they can do division by 10 in their head, or just division in their head at all. But if you do 5 divided by 10, move the decimal over here one place, that's it. You end up with 0.5, which is the same thing as half, because 5 is half of 10. Now, it doesn't get any harder when you do something like this, 5 divided by 100. 5 divided by 100, if you start with the decimal here, right there, and you move the decimal over, this time we're going over two times. You're going over 2 times for the zeros. 1, 2 times over to the left. So now your decimal is going to be over here. See this gap? You fill this in with a 0. You end up with an answer of 0.05. If you don't believe me, try it on your calculator. But this works for any number. It can be really complicated. It could be 12.83, and say you want to do 12.83 divided by 1,000. Now, this seems like it's something you couldn't do without a calculator at first glance, unless you know the trick. So all you're doing when you're dividing by a power of 10, like 1,000, is moving the decimal place. So here, we'll do it in our heads. So 12.83 divided by 1,000, we take this decimal place, we're going to move the decimal place, it's right there this time. We see where it is, and we're going to move it, since we're dividing, we're going to move it to the left. Move it once, twice, 3 places to the left. It's over here. Now, I made a gap. This loop was under a 2, this loop was under a 1, this loop was under nothing. I'm going to fill that in with 0, and my answer is 0.01283. And you can do that in your head. So this isn't a math lesson, believe it or not. It's actually how to convert metric units. So let's get to it. So I taught a method to remember the prefixes that we need to look at again. So let's just take a peek back at these prefixes. The prefixes go kilo, hecta, deca, deci, centi, milli, with this space right here for the base unit. So what I taught in class was this phrase, King Hector died, ... drinking chocolate milk. And it goes along with the order of the prefixes from largest, kilo, to smallest, milli. So let me write it out over on the next slide. It goes like this. King Hector died, ... drinking chocolate milk. So the ... represents our base units. This could be gram or liter or meter. Any of these are the metric base units. If you remember, we wrote those over here, but I've erased them. So grams, liters, meters, or there's lots of other metric base units, but we'll stick to grams, liters, and meters. So let me show you a few examples of how we actually use this little mnemonic, this memory device, King Hector died drinking chocolate milk, in order to help us remember how to move the decimal and how to make our metric conversions really, really quick. So get rid of those. First one. Let's say we have 5.3 meters of distance that we want to know how many centimeters are in that much distance. So here's what I'll do. First, I identify that I'm working with the base unit of meters. So right here, just to keep track of it, I'm going to write M. Okay, so this is meters. Remember, this M way over here, that actually stands for milli. These stand for the metric prefixes. This, right in the middle, that is the base unit of measurement. So, let's look at this. Meters. This is centimeters. So we're going from the base unit, that's the M here, we're going to centi. So to do that, I'm going to show you how to use this string of letters in order to figure out how many places I have to move the decimal. I start with M, since that's where I'm starting with 5.3 meters. Base unit, M, here we go. I end at C. I'm going to hop to the D, that's once. To the C, that's twice. So what I've just done is I've hopped 2 places to the right. That shows me how to move my decimal. So my number was originally 5.3. Now I'm going to take that decimal and make it hop the same way I did up here, once, twice to the right. So I'll go once, past the 3, again to the right, and I'm going to end with a decimal way over here, but I made a gap. I fill in the gap with a 0, like so, and my answer is 530, with a decimal there, centimeters. Another example. Let's do 8.34 centimeters. How many millimeters is that? This one, my base unit is M again, but this time I'm hopping from the C to the M along my line. So here, let me get rid of this arrow. Now I'm hopping from the C to the M, which is just one hop to the right. That means my decimal is going to hop 1 to the right. So I'll end up with a decimal between the 3 and the 4 here, which looks like this. 8.3.4. You'd read this number 83.4 millimeters. There's your answer. Now, in both of these examples, I've moved the decimal to the right. Let me show you one where I have to move the decimal to the left. Get rid of this. Get rid of my little M there as a reminder. Let's take a look at 863 grams. And I want to know how many kilograms that is. So now my base unit has changed. This doesn't change our method though. We just have to figure out, okay, the G stands for our base unit. So just as a reminder, I'm going to write it right in here over the dots. The G is our base unit. So I'm going to start at the base unit, my G. I'm going to end this time at K. So I'll hop once to the left, that's the D, to the H, to the K. Now I had to hop once, twice, 3 times to the left. This time I'm going to rewrite the number down below, 863. And when you have a number 863, you actually have a hidden decimal right over here. I'm going to hop the same way I did up here, once, twice, 3 times to the left. So I'm going to move this decimal once, twice, 3 times to the left, just like I did up here. So now my decimal ends up from after the 3, I move it between the 3 and the 6, between the 6 and the 8, and then before the 8. So my answer is going to end up being 0.863 kilograms, just like that. One more. Let's do an extreme one. Let's look at 1 kilometer and figure out just how many millimeters are in that. So this time, my base unit is meters, right there, on both sides. I'm going from kilometers to millimeters. So let's write this out. KHD ... DCM, King Hector died, ... drinking chocolate milk. My base unit is meters. I've identified that. I'm starting at the K prefix, and I'm ending way over here at the M prefix. So I'm going to hop once, twice. Try that again. Once, twice, 3 times to the base unit, 4 to the D, 5 to the C, 6 times to the right takes to get to the M. So my decimal starts right after the 1. Let me rewrite this. 1 point. I'm going to hop once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times to the right. That's a lot of hops. But what I have to do is fill in the zeros. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 zeros. You know what a 1 with 6 zeros after it is? That is 1,000,000. So there's 1,000,000 millimeters in 1 kilometer. Hopefully this helped you to figure out how to convert metric units. If you have any questions, just send me an email.